there's too much miscommunication between the quarterback and wide receiver at this point of the season.
Joining us now, our guy Brian Baldinger of All City. This is brought to you by Insider Access, segmented, powered by our friends at Verizon. Visit a Verizon store, switch to their award-winning 5G network, and get a $200 gift card. And we're looking to buy a win any way we can, Baldy. Arizona Cardinals 0-3 post-bye, and 2 what we would consider pretty lopsided losses to Seattle. Is it just as easy as saying, like, right now, Seattle, not a good matchup for the Arizona Cardinals?
It looks that way. I mean, you can't throw the ball away in your second and third possession. Just give them the ball on bad throws. But they it's a 17-10 game. They're hanging right in there, and they call a Buda Baker blitz, and they gashed them, and Charbonnet goes 51 yards. They hadn't given up those kind of plays. Really, for much of the stretch of the season, not that type of play. And, they didn't make any plays on defense. And so you go, okay, Seattle's played 2 out of 3 weeks, and they've kind of owned them. They, first game, they just ran the ball down their throats, and they stopped them from running it. And then, they couldn't make any plays in this last game, and you go, okay, Seattle's just better. That's what it looks like. Now, I'm sure they can play better than that, but you got to play your best with a team right now that's leading the division. If you want to win the division, you got to beat the best, and they haven't been very competitive to do that.
Yeah, and it seems like it's their quarterback kind of is the one that, it's taken a lot of flack. This is a guy that took care of the football going into the bye, just 3 interceptions, has thrown 5 since, including those picks on back-to-back drives. What role do you see Kyler Murray playing in the Cardinals' kind of little 3-game downfall?
Well, he has to take responsibility. He has to look in the mirror and go, I'm part of the problem. Like, he's not making enough plays from that position. And if you're giving it back to the other team, that's, in these games now, at this time of the year, we're 14 weeks in now, guys. Like, you look at the turnover ratio, and the teams are at the very top of this business right now. Like, you look at these teams like Pittsburgh, they're plus 17. You can't be turning the ball over in these games where you get 8, 9, maybe 10 possessions. You just can't give it to them, and you give them field position. You take away that opportunities, and then you give up big plays. Like, that's a disaster in this business right now. And so I don't want quarterbacks to play like afraid of making a mistake. That's not a good way to play. But at the same time, if you're going to be aggressive, you got to make more plays to overcome that. And I would say Kyler hasn't been able to do that right now.
You mentioned the aggressiveness, Baldy. When you watch the tape, does it show what a lot of Cardinal fans deem to be a conservative offense? Like, there was multiple possessions in the second and third quarter of this game where it felt like whether it was K1 or Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator, basically conceded drives on like second and third and long. Like, is that not in the Cardinals' repertoire to be able to pick up chunk yardage? Because Seattle was getting penalties with their offensive line. Geno Smith's throwing darts 15, 20 yards downfield.
Yeah, Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's the go-to guy right now in Seattle, and he was on Sunday. I do think it's awfully conservative. I pointed that out. Up in Minnesota, I thought they were conservative. I thought they were conservative the week before against Seattle. If you're looking at these teams right now, Detroit, like, they'll go for it 5 times on fourth down. I'm not saying you have to be a riverboat gambler, but I think you've got to basically say that we're going to take 4 downs to get a first down and hang on to the ball and not give it back. And I think they got to be a little bit more aggressive. I thought if they were more aggressive against Minnesota, they could have beaten Minnesota. And that's not the game that they played. It showed up again last week. You just can't – I think you have to think twice about punting the ball away. If you're truly fighting for a playoff spot, you might as well let it all fly and take some chances. And I think they've been reluctant to do that.
Let's get kind of more big picture because everybody wants to spotlight the quarterback in this situation. Obviously, the first year of a mega $1 million extension for Kyler Murray, and he'd been played really well through the first 10 games of the season. But then with this recent kind of slide, people want to say, hey, he's just not the guy. What would you say to the critics of Kyler Murray, or what should Cardinals fans kind of try to figure out about their quarterback now in season 6 with K1?
Well, I think not just the fans. I think Monty, I think Jonathan Gannon, I think everybody's looking at it going, is this just a slump? Can he play himself out of this? Is it because this is not how you want to, end year 2 on a slide like this. It's because the quarterback is under the microscope, and he either steps up right here You got 2 very winnable games here in New England, Carolina. And if you take care of business and you get above 500, all right, you play 2 division games down the stretch to like maybe sneak into the playoffs, maybe win the division. Who knows? But at the same time, your quarterback is going to be the guy that's most under the microscope. But we always say it, and it's cliche, but it's true. They're going to take more blame than they probably deserve and get more credit than they deserve. But at the same time, that comes with the territory. It comes with the contract. The Atlanta Falcons are experiencing that right now with Kirk Cousins. And if your quarterback isn't playing his best football right now and you're losing games, then it's fair game to be very critical of Kyler right now. And you can point out some of the flaws that he's born with, whether it's his size, whether it's, how well he sees the field. Like all that stuff is fair game right now when you're struggling.
Baldy, everybody loves to do the draft regrades prematurely. We're 13 games into this bad boy with Marvin Harrison Jr. And while there's still a lot of belief long-term, knowing what you know about the Cardinals and how they want to play ball offensively, like would you recommend a different pick in hindsight? Because clearly they don't prioritize throwing the ball downfield, right? They've asked a lot of him primarily as an X receiver, not moving him around all that often. And then you look at the games against Seattle, they can't pass protect. Maybe a tackle would have made more sense. Like, what's your assessment right now of the Cardinals with Marv 13 games in?
Well, he's not a difference maker, and you're picking number 4 at that position. You want a difference maker. You want a guy that comes in and you can point to, other guys in this league, like Ladd McConkey with the Chargers has been a difference maker. But you could go around different positions. You wanted a bigger impact with the number 4 pick than what they've gotten so far. Now, I know he's got, 6-7 touchdown catches, but it doesn't seem like it's like, which is not anything to be slight a hand about, but at the same time, 7 touchdowns, you kind of want games when they're in the bounce, like this is where the ball's going. We need a third down conversion. We're going to go for it on 4th down. This is where the ball's going. And you just don't see that. Either his reluctance to be competitive for the ball. We've seen too many times this year where there's miscommunication between the quarterback, and we've talked about it on this show many times, but I know you guys have probably pointed those plays out. There's too much miscommunication between the quarterback and wide receiver at this point of the season. And I said when they were on a 4-game win streak and going to Seattle, like he's got to be a difference maker, and he simply has not been that guy right now. He got, he beat a Minnesota, 14 corner for a touchdown a couple weeks ago, kept him in the game, okay. But we didn't see that against Devin Witherspoon. We didn't see that against, Tariq Woolen last week. We didn't see, great receiver play against top-flight corners, young corners in this league, or at least the confidence to go to them in these spots. And I'm concerned because I don't see, like, the hunger that you want out of that position right now.
Yeah, I talked to him at his locker this week, Baldy, kind of the difference between him and how he approaches having internal discussions maybe about, commanding the football or trying to get more involved, because obviously we're seeing a very public display in Philadelphia, A.J. Brown, and he agrees, like, different wide receivers go about it differently. And he says, it's not that I'm not doing that. I'm going to my coaches when I have something, but does he need to maybe make more of a command or demand for the football?
Well, it's like this. Like if you watch, I know you watched like Cincinnati and Dallas the other night. Like the first play of the game, they put Jamar Chase in the backfield and they ran a hitch to him. The first run of the game, they ran Jamar Chase on a fly sweep. And they told Jamar, like, you are the game plan. The game plan is going through you. Now, they got, maybe the best quarterback in the league, best receiver. Okay, it's rare, but they got a special connection. And they've had that. But if you want to get the ball to your wide receiver, I said this in San Francisco last week, I could call you 5 plays for George Kittle to get him the ball. Well, they used all 5 plays. Like, it's not hard. I don't even see, like, the simple put him in the slot like they do with Devontae Adams in New York and throw a hitch to him. Let him go beat somebody, in the secondary for a first down. Like, I just think we overcomplicate this thing about a quarterback getting the ball to a wide receiver. The same thing's going on in Philly. Now, you could say, well, they've won 9 in a row, and they got a pretty good formula, and the quarterback's not turning it over, and it's working there. And maybe the receiver's not happy that he's not, catching touchdown passes, and there was opportunities for him to do it. But I don't see those opportunities for Marvin the way they're using him. and the way he just sort of goes through however they go through these progressions, like he doesn't look like he's a big focal point of it. So I just think this is a game this week where you could go like he's going to get Christian Gonzalez probably all game. Like that's probably who they're going to match up on him. He's a top flight corner. Like it'd be a good matchup to go, okay, Marvin, you want to go, you want more targets, you want more catches, you want touchdowns, go beat Christian Gonzalez this week. He's probably going to travel with them everywhere he goes.
Follow him on all social platforms. Our guy, NFL All-City analyst Brian Baldinger. Baldy, thanks for the time this week.
Yep, my pleasure, guys. Talk to you next week, man. Enjoy it.